In this video, it's another Australian speciality. It is the Mitsubishi Magna. So I'm struggling with sunlight a bit because it is just low and also beautiful. We've got some beautiful shades going on, but this is a Mitsubishi Magna. This is a first generation model and designed for Australia and built also in Australia. It's not a completely new design though. It is simply the existing Magna stroke Sigma that was sold in Europe as a Sapporo, slit down the middle and widened 2.6 inches I think it is, just a little bit wider, just to make it a bit better for the Australian market. Got this lovely three-pointed star going on the badge. We've got kangaroo scarers, I think these are, that have been there for a very long time. Wouldn't have been original fitment, nor would this, although I suspect you could probably order a sun visor from the factory. That could come in very useful with the very low sunlight we've got going on. Under the bonnet, despite the fact this was meant to compete on the Australian market, we've got a 2.6 litre fuel injected 4-banger, which I think we should probably have a look at next. So there we go, there is the 4-pot engine, overhead camshaft, sounds nothing very special, and also mounted on the passenger side, as was Mitsubishi's want at the time. That's what they did. The Protons were licensed built Mitsubishis, also have the engine stuffed over there. It's a design philosophy that Honda also used for a time on its passenger cars, was to have the engine the opposite end of the car to the driver. We've got fuel injection gubbins going on up the back. But the clever thing about this engine is that to try and make it smoother, there is a counter-rotating balance shaft somewhere deep within the bowels of the engine to try and cancel out the roughness of a 4-cylinder engine and try and make it smoother. This manifold I don't think looks very standard, despite the fact it's got Magna written on it. That does look rather clumsy. I'm not sure why there's a big nut welded to it, for instance. I might explain why this example feels a little on the throaty side, to be honest. But look at that, equal length headers, maybe for a bit more grunt, but should be quite punchy. The power figure I've entirely forgotten, so I shall put it about here at a later date. But this example looking very clean under here. Nice big radiator, single fan, and yeah, should be all the good times. Now I'm going to move the car for the interior shots because this low sun is going to play absolute havoc with the camera otherwise. But we can see McPherson strut front suspension. The rear suspension, I will go around the other side to look at that. We're not actually going to look at it because I'm not going to crawl around under the car, but it's quite an unusual setup. It's McPherson strut, nothing remarkable about that, but it's a torsion axle as well, so there is actually a link side to side, so the two wheels are not completely independent, and I suspect that was to try and prove its toughness, shut up train, against stuff like the Commodore and the Falcons. Beefy motors that didn't tend to have independent rear suspension might have scared people off. Just taking the delights of the rear styling. This is a Magna Elite, and that's the top of the range model, so you get this little infill panel and you get the two-tone paint and these rather delicious alloy wheels. Right, found a nice shady spot which gives us a better chance to have a walk around the car. Maybe I should have parked in the shade initially, but it's quite a smart looking car. It's not massively out there. I quite like the wedge profile it's got going on. It's rising wing line, so it's quite a clean shape and remarkably unfussy for a Japanese car. So I think a fine rival for another Australian built Japanese car. It's just the immobiliser setting there, the Nissan Skyline R31, but I think this is a bit more interesting in shape, if not necessarily in engine. Some people just like many cylinders, but yeah, let's just do that again. Nice quality sound to the door, but already we're winning. Look, we've got illumination here, we've got these amazing power window switches. For some reason in the 1980s the Japanese went absolutely mad for orange text. We've got central locking, lovely little pull handle that feels, you know, it feels metal, feels like metal, not horrible plastic. We've got adjust the seat back, move back and forwards, height adjustment on the driver's seat as well, so that's all quite good. Harder to go down because it would normally have the human's weight on it. Remote fuel release, remote boot release. But look at these seats, massively comfortable, all of the velour, it's good times. But it gets absolutely bonkers in here. I think someone at Mitsubishi must have been a bit of a Citroen fan, to be honest, because not only have we got a single spoke steering wheel, but we've kind of got this whole PRN thing going on. Lovely digital dashboard display, but yeah, lots of fingertip controls. So the wipers are here, although annoyingly you have to rotate to operate them. So you haven't actually got the fingertip control you might think you might have, but you have got fingertip heater controls, so that will make it hotter. You can hear the fan, the electric motor adjusting, and that's fan speeds. And oh, yeah, that's your intermittent wiper adjustment there. Over the other side, we've got cruise control settings up here, hazard lights. Oh, nice indicator noise. Nice row of switches along there as well, you see. This is the indicator stalk. And we've got parking lights, heated rear window, and there would be a rear stat down here to dim the lights, but someone, not this owner, has fitted LEDs which won't work with a rear stat. So the light control is here. Is there a flasher, I wonder? There must be a flasher somewhere, you would have thought. There it is. There's your flasher, right. And headlamps. Thusly, can adjust different ventilation here, whether you want just flowing through or fan assisted. Little ducts to demist the side windows, lots of thoughtful touches. But yeah, look at the steering wheel. It's amazing. Different, you've got the controls here for the stereo, which I need to get to. In fact, I'm going to put the handbrake on. I'm going to slam it into first, because look at this. It's the most amazing stereo you've ever seen. I'm going to press the power button.
Smooth 91.5.
And there we go.
Smooth 91.5.
That's smooth 91.5 for you. Cassette player with eject. Lovely. So 1980s. It's got a memory function. It's got seek, volume controls down here. And under this tag, a full graphic equalizer. Hasn't really got the speakers to pull off a graphic equalizer, sadly. But it's a work of art. We've got some heater controls over here, air conditioning, I don't know if it works or not, and yeah, cool air to the face whilst demisting, and yeah, all these different settings everywhere. And yeah, controls here, there's a lovely dash mat to try and stop the dashboard degrading. Yeah, where do you want your airflow? Different places. Down here is the gear selector for the 4-speed automatic transmission. It's a typical slightly confusing Japanese one. So it's got an overdrive, but overdrive is effectively top gear. So if you push the button and turn overdrive off, it locks it into 1, 2 and 3, and that allows you to go into 4th, and I think it may have a torque converter lockup, don't quote me on that. Electric mirror control down here, little cubby, and rather too low to be an armrest, to be honest. That is a little on the low side. But once again, we're fortunate to have the brochure of the car we are testing. So this is the Mitsubishi Magna brochure, and yeah, advanced technology. There is the balance shaft engine design, which I believe Mitsubishi did actually license out to other manufacturers. 4-speed automatic with electronic overdrive. There we go. And beautiful yellow colour there. Thoughtfulness of design. Rear window shade band. Oh wow, it's got a tinted rear window at the top. So it has. It's very slightly noticeable. Sorry, there is an enormous lorry just about to drive past. See, I wasn't kidding. You don't get that with most road tests, do you? Lovely Kenworth there. But yeah, there's the rear suspension. So as you can see, it's a sort of a twist beam and also McPherson strut with a panhard rod for good measure by the look of it. And Mitsubishi Ingenuity with a front suspension, which is fairly standard McPherson strut. This has got luxury pack, so it's got the adjustable rear head restraints. And yeah, it's lovely photos. I don't know why I'm showing you this brochure of a car I'm in, but there you go. Just good times. And there's the SE, which I think was your entry level model. They did also do an estate. I have not seen one of these on the road. To try and find a rear shot of the wagon, because frankly that's the most interesting bit. There you go, the Magna wagon. Now the second generation did come to the UK, and just to be confusing, they called it a Sigma. I've got a repair manual just in case I break down while I'm out here. Yeah, it gets confusing, but this is a widened Sigma, but the second generation was sold as a Sigma in the UK. I've just noticed it's got the red wiper blades going on. That's the second Japanese car I've driven in the Antipodes with red wiper blades. They're a strange bunch down here. Quite a handy sized glove box, original dealer pack and stuff in there. Lovely. But while we're here and while I've got the ignition on, let's do a wiper test. Oh honestly people, this is HubNut. Do you not think I'm going to try these things? Yet again thwarted by a lack of screen wash. That's disappointing, but a good white pattern, good overlap. Even if there was water, there would be no triangle of doom. It's all good. Blade comes nicely to here. Typical Japanese good design. Just give you a view of that dashboard again. Look at that. All of the good times. Beautiful. Right, rear seat. Oh yeah, here in the back it's nice and spacious. I've got just about enough headroom. I've got my head restraint. I've got a folding armrest, which seems quite enormous. And is there a hatch into the boot? Oh, there is. Look, sneaky glance at the boot, which seems to be mostly full of car cover. And that's quite interesting because I drove a third generation Magna last night. Typical HubNut, doing it in the wrong order. And that had a very similar setup to this. But yeah, I've got lots of space. If anything, I think I've got more space here than I had in the third gen. Plenty of room for knees. Lots of space under the seat for my feet to go. Little pockets here, electric windows, fascinating illumination up here. Look at that. That's a beautiful frosted effect. I'm not sure I've ever seen an interior light quite so decorative. Not since the 1930s anyway. And I presume that is with the door. Is it with the door? It's not with the rear door. But there we go. And we can't test the electric windows, but I'm going to assume it goes pretty much a long way down. Fixed grab handles there and thereabouts. Let's have a quick peek in the boot then. Now this is progress for you, because the third generation does not have a remote release like that, although maybe that one doesn't work. I didn't hear anything release. No, we don't seem to be in. We'll have to use the key after all. Oh, and it doesn't lift the middle panel, so we've got this very high lip to get in to the boot area. But there we go. It's a good old sized boot. There's the hatch through to the rear seats, and plenty of oil in here. I don't know if that's a worrying sign or not. But yeah, note, before towing, read owner's manual carefully. I live by this motto. She'll be right. Right, we're into silly head torch territory, unfortunately, because I seem to have managed to forget my in-car mount. Getting towards the end of this trip, and it's starting to catch up with my brain. There we go. Fire up the... this might not be a bad angle, actually, because you should be able to see the wonderful dashboard. Wonderful. So, as you can hear, it is pretty smooth for a four-cylinder engine, I reckon. I don't think that's too bad at all. We shall go for a drive. Choose my direction carefully because I don't really want to be driving into the sun. So, foot on brake, we go into drive, the revs drop accordingly, and we pull away. So on paper, this car is not ideal because Australians do like cylinders. And I have to be honest, I think this car probably wouldn't have appealed to the proper petrol heads. I can very much imagine the sort of people who bought these cars just want a car. And as you can hear, we've got a bit of wind noise because of this silly sun visor, but I might well be glad of that yet, so maybe I shouldn't call it silly. But it's very smooth and very effortless to drive. Very well built, there are no rattles. And I think a car like this probably gave the existing cars here something to think about. It was a bit of a warning shot. Sadly, I'm not sure Mitsubishi managed to keep up their good start here. I've just noticed I can see my little Mitsubishi badge at the end of the bonnet. I think Mitsubishi slightly lost their way, and by the time of the third generation, especially when they restyled it, sales had definitely begun to slide. I wasn't sure if I could use that lane, but I think I can. Lane discipline is not a thing here, so there's no keeping left, even though they have signs everywhere that say keep left. People generally don't, and it's fine, it's just accepted. You just go up the inside of them. Nonetheless, we are slightly breaking the speed limit. Oh, that's quite a pretty view. Yeah, look at the view, not the speed limit. Because it's roadworks, meant to be only doing 40. So I've been a bit naughty. Don't look at that. The steering's a little lifeless, but it's rack and pinion, so it's accurate. The car isn't weaving about at all. I'm assuming that the Holden and Ford at the time wouldn't have been so equipped. I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that. But Australia didn't tend to be at the cutting edge of car technology. So this thing with its button-mounted wheels, wheel-mounted buttons, let's try again, must have been something of a revelation. I'm not sure how fast we're going to be able to go today, because we are tucked right against the coast, south of Melbourne here. And if I'm learning anything, it's that Melbourne roads are not for fun. Haha, end of roadwork. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not pulling as well as a 6-cylinder or a V8 would, but has to be remembered that not everyone wants a V8 or a 6-cylinder engine option. I quite like them myself, but some people just want a car that's effortless and you'd hope relatively economical, although I've seen contemporary test information suggesting they aren't actually that comfortable, economical rather, presumably because the engine's having to work a bit harder. Oh, I really didn't plan this. Now I'm driving into the sun. Now, having the engine as a 2.6 litre 4-banger does seem a slightly odd choice, I'll grant you. And it's as the 4-cylinder engines get bigger that they really do need some sort of control. Porsche 944 used a 2.7 litre 4-banger, so they also had a counter-rotating balance shaft on their engines, and you don't see many people complaining about those. Oh good, a roundabout. Give the brakes a test. All discs vented at the front, and definitely in the adequate department, I would say, for braking. 7 o'clock according to my Quartz digital clock. Don't know if going up there is a good idea, but we shall go and have a look. Now, going that way looks bad news, so let's go this way. Bluff Road. I mean, I can't say the handling inspires from what I've felt so far. The steering really does have no feel to it at all. It doesn't inspire any sort of confidence. It doesn't seem to weight up, so you're left wondering how much grip you've actually got. Also feels a little on the wobbly side. If you want handling, what you want is a Z32 Nissan 300 ZX. Yeah, it does gather pace without fuss. It's not fast, but to be honest, how often do you actually need fast in a road car? I would say not very often. I know I'm slightly biased because I drive cars that definitely are not fast in the slightest, but that's just my thoughts on the matter. So very nice trees here hanging over the road, looking like they might crush us to death, but nonetheless they haven't. Ooh, nippy. Yeah, I mean that's punchy enough really, isn't it? I would say that's an adequate amount of power. My idea of an adequate amount of power may differ to say Rolls-Royce or Bogans, but yeah, it feels plenty to me. But the ride's pretty good. It crashes a bit at times, but it crashes mostly in the noise sense. It doesn't seem to unsettle me as the driver too much. Oh, don't get too excited, folks, but we've got an 80 limit, which is quite exciting. That's almost relatively brisk. Oh yeah, that is smooth, comfortable progress. And I'm realising just how comfortable these seats are. You really do sink down into them. Absolutely marvellous. Well, the sun is literally setting on this road test. It's absolutely beautiful. But I thought I'd leave her running. The battery's not brilliant, so I daren't turn her off with all the lights running. But yeah, that was a really pleasant experience. It's a really nice car. I think if I was going to go for a Japanese origin Australian built car, I'm sorry, but the R31 Skyline wins for me. Just that extra creamy, silky smooth 6-cylinder engine just does the trick. But that is a really, really pleasant car to drive. I love the stereo, I love the interior. There's a lot to like. I wouldn't be disappointed if I had to drive around in this car. In fact, I'm slightly disappointed I've got to go and take it back now. But I hope you've enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. Don't forget you can visit the store at hubnut.org. You can join me on Patreon at patreon.com/hubnut. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell. Hold on a minute. Are these the original badges? I don't think so.